Hey, welcome to the Muy Macho and to the final chapter of the Warrens' chilling legacy. The Conjuring Last Rites marks the end of Ed and Lorraine Warren's journey in the Conjuring universe. Directed by Michael Chavez, this supernatural horror film dives into the terrifying Smurl haunting. It was a case that pushed the Warrens to their limits. So we're going to explore the story, the themes, and the emotional weight of this haunting farewell. Let's step into the darkness. So, The Conjuring Last Rites, it is based on the real life Smurl haunting, which is a case that the Warrens investigated back in the 80s. So, the Smurl family, they lived in West Pittston, Pennsylvania, and they faced these relentless, disembodied voices and all this other paranormal activity, physical attacks, and a malevolent presence that seemed to target their faith. Now, unlike the previous films, this story weaves two timelines. The Smurl's ordeal and the personal struggles of Judy Warren, Ed and Lorraine's daughter, who is played by Mia Tomlinson, is her name. So the film opens with Ed and Lorraine, portrayed again by Pat Wilson and Vera Farmiga, arriving at the Smurl home. The family's in chaos. Doors slam, shadows lurk, and the parents, Jack and Janet Smurl, are desperate. But this case feels different. The demon here is cunning, exploiting the family's vulnerabilities. Meanwhile, Judy, now grown, faces her own supernatural torment tied to her mother's clairvoyance and the Warrens' collection of haunted objects. So the screenplay was written by Ian Goldberg, Richard Nang, and David Leslie is McGoldrick guy. They do try to balance horror with heart, okay, especially after this many movies. The Smurl haunting escalates with visceral scares, thick flickering lights, guttural growls, and like a chilling exorcism. But the real terror lies in the emotional stakes. Judy's fiance, Tony, played by Ben Hardy, it grounds her story while the Warrens confront their own mortality. This is their last case, and the film doesn't shy away from the weight of that idea too, as they are getting older. So what sets Last Rites apart from the predecessors is its emotional core. The critics do praise the chemistry between Wilson and Farmiga, which has carried the franchise for 12 years now. Now, this film leans into their love story, though, showing Ed and Lorraine not just as demon hunters, but a couple facing the end of their journey. Now, one reviewer called it a tender farewell, with moments like a family cookout that do feel oddly wholesome for a horror movie. Even although when you juxtapose it with the horror, it does make sense. But don't be fooled. This is still a Conjuring movie. The scares and the jump scares, while they're not as intense as the first two movies, they do deliver. So picture a scene where the Smurl kids play hide and seek, only to hear whispers from a closet that's not empty. Now, we've seen this, but it's no less frightening when it happens. The demon's design, which was crafted by the VFX team at Digital Domain and Ingenuity Studios, it is unsettling. They put a lot of work into it, with practical effects amplifying the dread. So some of the critics argue, though, that the scares feel a little predictable, leaning on the franchise's familiar formula, but that's all right. That's why we keep going back to these things. So the film's pacing has sparked debate, though. Some of the fans love the slow build with a focus on the atmosphere over just the kind of cheap jump scares. But others feel, myself included, at 2 hours and 15 minutes for a runtime that does drag no matter what kind of movie it is, almost. And then a rushed ending that kind of leaves some questions unanswered. But still, the Smurl Hauntings real life basis adds a layer of unease, knowing that this stuff actually happened. So that makes it even more terrifying. Now, Last Rites is the ninth and final film in the first phase of the Conjuring universe, if you could believe it, a franchise that redefined modern horror. From the Perron haunting to the Enfield poltergeist, Ed and Lorraine's stories have terrified us for well over a decade now. Now, this film ties up their arc, but not without some controversy. Some call it a biblically boring kind of victory lap, while others see it as a fitting and emotional close to this long journey. Now, the franchise's success has lied in its blend of faith, fear, and family. Last Rites does double down on these themes with the Warrens' Catholic faith front and center, which is so rare in movies. Now, the Smurl case, like in the real life investigation, it hinges on an exorcism that tests their resolve. And while the film's 58% Rotten Tomato score suggests mixed reviews, the audience connection with Ed and Lorraine remains strong. We know them and we want to see what they're doing next. So is The Conjuring Last Rites a worthy finale? It's maybe not the scariest entry, but it is kind of a love letter to fans of Ed and Lorraine. The performances, especially Vera Farmiga, do carry the film, even when the story does feel a little overstuffed, even in this long run time. So For those who followed the Warrens since 2013, it is a bittersweet goodbye. But, the Conjuring universe isn't done. You've got spin-offs like The Nun, 2, and potential new stories looming on the horizon. So you can look forward to more of those. All right. So, if you go out and see this weekend, let me know what you think. Did it scare you, move you, or leave you wanting more? Please drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that like button and subscribe for more horror content and more macho content. All right. So until next time, keep your crosses close and your lights on. Thanks for watching. The Warrens may have faced their last demon, but the shadows of the Conjuring universe linger. Stay tuned for more, and don't look behind you. That's it for the Muy Macho today. We'll talk to you soon. Adios. Later. Bye.